role of bearings is transmission of forces from superstructure to substructure. So here the bearing will be acting as an intermediate between your girders and the piers. Okay, so the bearings can be placed vertical or horizontal. So it helps in permitting the movement of your girders in translation or rotation. And one of it is actually one of the most important part in a bridge. Okay, so there could be different types of bearings. I'm not sure whether you know about it. So the most common types of bearings we will be using in bridge structures are we have sliding bearings, roller and rocker bearings, elastomeric, and recent advanced bearing is PTFE. Okay, polytetrofluoroethylene bearings. It's a type of rubber which have a very good ductile content in it. Okay, so and elastomeric bearing we use in other structures as well, especially for base isolation we will be using it. Okay, and inspection of the see these are the different types, and the oil bath bearings we do not use in current infrastructure methods. So inspection of bearings. So these are the very important points that you must be knowing it. So the inspection of steel bearing or very important in regular maintenance of the bridges, especially the steel bridges, because when there is any corrosion mechanism takes place at girder level or deck slab level, it is obviously going to affect your bearings as well. Whereas in case of concrete bridge or pre-stressed concrete bridge, bearings is a different material, whereas your girders and piers are made up of different composites. Okay, so that will have of course it will have a effect, but comparatively to your steel bridge where both bearings and girders that are made up of steel are integrated together, so at that point the cost will be very large. Okay, so very particularly the bearings of all girder bridges should be generally cleaned and greased. So once in every 2 to 3 years. Okay, it's not beyond 2 years. At least for 2 years, you have to check and maintain. So in case of bridge that carries long welded rails, so when you go for uniting two different rails or two different girders, okay. So in that scenario, we will be using long welded rails. We call it as LWR. At that point, the sliding bearing shall be inspected, especially during March, when the summer season about to start, and during October when the winter season is about to start. Okay, so this depends upon different regions of the nation. Okay, and any foreign materials that are available in the bearings must be cleaned, and then you have to apply for greasing. The lubrication of the bearing shall be done once in 2 years. Okay, and especially for railway bridges, we do have an organization called RDSO. Okay, Research Design and Standards Organization. So it is an organization. I mean, R&D organization comes under the Ministry of Railways of India, which functions as a technical advisor and consultant to the Indian Railways. Suppose, for example, in India, we have a separate organization called BPRD, Bureau of Police and Research Development. So that particular organization takes care of any modernization of police forces. What are the different reforms has to be done? So we have a dedicated police force, right? So we have a team to monitor different types of weapons as well. But you have a institution that is called as BPRD, Bureau of Police Research and Development, which takes care of modernization of the police force. Similarly, for design view, okay, you take for Indian Railways, because Indian Railways handles more bridges, okay, especially steel bridges, fine. So they do have their own organization that is called as Research Design and Standards Organization. This particular organization frames different policies, especially structural design policies, bridge maintenance and rail maintenance policies that helps the Indian Railways to take care. Okay, so bearings must be taken care as adhere to this RDSO principles. Fine. So sliding bearings should be inspected for the major reasons like oiling and greasing of bearings, which must be required to be done at least 2 years once to ensure the proper functioning. Okay. and excessive longitudinal movements of the superstructure result in what we say sharing of location strips as well as anchor bolts that connects the base plate. In those cases where sometimes we use chemicals like phosphor bronze sliding bearings, which are periodically used, especially for hill regions where you will have a rails made up of steel, which will be connected through timber sleepers. Fine. So in case of the concrete sleepers and timber sleepers, the behavior and effect between your railway rails and the sleeper will be differ depends upon the material content. So that's why in case of timber, to avoid, because when you connect the rail with the timber by drilling or bolting, okay, so it will lead to any cracks in timber or enlarged opening of timber, okay, so that will lead to water percolation or penetration, okay. So in such scenario we'll be using phosphor bronze sliding bearings, which in case of any cracks that happens in timber will be uh, well compacted such that it gets sealed off, okay. So that kind of bronze slidings will be used as per RDSO principles. So and if you observe, many times a uniform contact between bottom face of the bed plate and top surface of the bed block is not ensured, resulting in gap at certain locations of the railway bridges. Actually this leads to transfer of excessive impact forces to the bed block under live load, okay. And this may lead to crack and crushing of bed block under the masonry which we have constructed underneath the bridges, especially arch type of bridges, right? And check the condition of location strip and guide strip or sharing of rivets. The anchor bolts in proper position and intact. Okay. Look for any bend or sharing of bolt, and then uniform seating of rollers and bearing strip. Check with feeler gauge. Okay. And in case of flat bearings, we have a different type called the flat bearings. The girder is lifted a little over 6 mm. The bearing surface is cleaned with kerosene oil and a mixture of black oil. Okay. So grease and graphite in a working proportion. Normally, if you observe any railway lines, if you see when they wanted to make a long welded rails, they will be using graphite welding. Okay. So you can see, you might be observed in some of the rails. Okay. So they will have some boiler types, so which will be fixed with rails, and they will pour graphite, and the graphite will be poured along the joints and it will fix it. So in such location we will be using flat bearings, okay. And I told you about in the previous cell rocker and roller bearings. So these are the centralized bearing arrangements. Okay. So coming to the roller and rocker bearing, so this type of bearings lifted from their position by adequate slinging. So what do you mean by slinging is, so what happens is in case of maintenance of such kind of bearings, you will tie uh, a cable along the rails and you'll be lifting it up to some extent so that your bearings can be changed. So the lifting has to be calculated. The lifting force has to be calculated and the displacement has to be calculated. Beyond that, you cannot lift to the rails. Otherwise, it will displace the entire configuration of your permanent way. Okay. In that case, the bearings are scrapped or polished with zero grade sandpaper and graphite of sufficient quantity to keep surfaces very smooth, which should be applied evenly over the bearings or rock and rollers before the bearings are lowered back to its original position. We have a certain pins. For example, in some of our steel structures, especially at cycles or at home, also you can see at the end of the bolt, especially the fans, ceiling fans, you can see. We call it as a knuckle pins. Okay. Sometimes during a constant or consistent dynamic loads, the bolt may get loosened. So there are possibilities that the bolts may be loosened and come out. Okay. So in such scenarios, we will be using knuckle pins at the end of the bolt. So we will have inserted a spring. okay, within the bolt through a hole that are called as knuckle pins. The knuckle pins of both free and fixed ends should also be greased at the time. So while lifting fixed ends of the girders, the space between the girders or between the girder and ballast wall at free ends should be jammed with wedges. This is very important point. As I said, we call it a slinking operation. So when you lift the girder or bearing for maintenance, no, say for example you will not be lifting it more than 10 mm, okay, in some scenarios, okay. So when you lift it for 10 mm, immediately you should not let the crane to completely hold it. You should put a wedge underneath, okay. So these ends should be jammed with wedges to prevent any longitudinal movement of the girder, right? So in case of segmental rollers, the segmental rollers you can very much observe in end end joints of the girders, okay. These segmental rollers, it should be seen that they are placed vertically at mean temperature. See, this is very important. In most of the design cases, we failed to include the mean temperature in any of the design, okay. So when you take care of the design, it is very important to calculate the mean temperature. So mean temperature is nothing but, so for a particular location, for example, if you are going to construct a foot over bridge at Poteri railway station, so you have to take the mean temperature of the particular location for the past 100 years. So based upon the mean temperature, we have to apply it to the structure and we have to calculate the thermal stresses. This is how actually the design must be worked out, okay. So this is a point I wanted to tell you, okay. So when you calculate thermal stresses, you don't take the temperature, mean temperature for a particular year, okay. So that may be leads to any type of failure. So you have to take minimum, maximum as well as the average mean temperature for your design consideration for the past 100 years. So that is why we require to calculate mean temperature. This is common for any type of structure, not only for bridges. It will be better to indicate, uh, when you do a structural drawing, it's always better to indicate the completion drawings of bridge stress sheets. uh, you might not be heard about this kind of sheets, okay. So as a structural engineering profession, when you go into the field, we will be taking care of AutoCAD drawings where we draft about the building structure, the plans, the sections and all, and then we go for a structural drawing where we will be giving detailing and all, fine. So in infrastructure based project, see, I came to know about these stress sheets from one of the project at Kudungulam nuclear power plant. So in power plants and all, what they do is when they do construction, so once the construction before execution, after the design gets completed and the structural drawings are drafted, immediately they go for stress sheets. So what a stress sheet actually do is they will take all the critical location of the structure, and for that particular structure they will reflect the shear force and bending moment at different points for actual live load and for accidental loads. So that are called as the stress sheets, okay. Okay, so here you can see, uh, at the bottom of the plate girder, you can see the clear span, okay, the theoretical span and overall length. So can any one of you tell what is clear span, what is theoretical span?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Clear spans are one apartment to another apartment.
okay,
Uh,
good.
midpoint you can say the clear span, and theoretical span you can say the apartment midpoint to another apartment midpoint.
Right, that's good, correct. Okay. So these factors will be mentioned in your stress sheets. Okay. So you will be calculating from midpoint to midpoint and how does it reacts for the live load and additional accidental loads. And then we will be taking from one end to another end. At that point, how the girders reacts. So these kind of scenarios will be taking care. Okay. So that is where we concentrate on stress. Suppose even after your this MTech structural engineering, if you are going to join a job, normally if you go and join a structural engineering for any residential projects or commercial projects, okay, in that scenario, I guess you may not be exposed to stress sheets. So when you get into infrastructure based project, very especially bridges, nuclear reactors, or telecommunication towers, tower construction. Okay, in that scenario, you will be very well exposed to stress sheets. So you keep in mind that stress sheets, the span that are mentioned in stress sheets will have both clear span reactions as well as theoretical span reactions. Okay. Then you have to take care the maintenance of arch bridge very effectively because in most of the railway bridges we take care of arch bridges. Okay, so these are the different components of arch bridges. So I will explain you about the maintenance of these arch bridges, and then again I will come to different types of bearings because I told you about PTFE bearings and all. So you have to know. You should know about what are the PTFE bearings, what are the elastomeric bearings, and what are its functions. Okay, so this kind of things you must be knowing it. And coming to the arch bridges, most of the arch bridges are very old. In fact, if you see in India in current scenario, we actually go for pre-stressed girder bridges or steel girder bridges, and sometimes we go for suspension cable bridges where long span is required. And we because for arch bridges you require more skillful labors in constructing the arches and all. Fine. So that is why we in fact avoid such kind of bridges in infrastructure. And if you observe, the most of the arch bridges are vintage, but they usually have such a reserve of strength that they have been able to carry the even the present day traffic. So it might be designed and constructed as per the scenario of 50 years back. Okay, even now the load of the vehicles, the dynamics of the vehicles, the speed of the particular area might be changed. Okay, uh, the arch bridges have the capability to have some reserved strength of forces. So that is where arch bridges outstand other bridges. Okay. For effectiveness and meaningful inspection of arch bridges, it is essential that uh, you must be inspecting official conversant with the nomenclature of various components of an arch bridge. So that is why I have given different components here, starting from parapet. You have waterproofing, arch ring surface, cushion, okay, and a series of deep holes, introduce, extrudes, a wing wall, return wall, skew back coping, buttress, and a spandrel wall. See, each of these member have its own effects. Okay, and for proper inspection of any structure, it is necessary that the inspecting official or the structural engineer need to understand the load transfer mechanism in the particular structure. Okay, so for example, this is arch bridge, which is uh, I mean, break down into a particular point. Okay, so the cross section where the horizontal thrust on substructure and the vertical load on the foundation is acting. Okay, and longitudinal cracks under the spandrel wall. Okay, so for if one looks at the load transfer mechanism of an arch structure, it can be observed that the loads coming on the arch are transferred as a vertical reaction and horizontal thrust on the substructure, that is your pier or abutments. So this is what this particular figure depicts. Okay, the load transfer mechanism of an arch structure is it is observed that loads coming on the arch are transferred as a vertical reaction and horizontal thrust on the substructure. Substructure means your piers or abutment. From this particular figure, you can easily conclude that soundness of foundation is extremely important in arch bridges. Of course, foundation is very important for any buildings, but in case of arch bridges, uh, the foundation should be not only properly designed, but also the material that you are using for construction of foundation must be very soundful. Okay, this fact must be borne in mind not only during inspection but also in executing work such as jacketing of piers and abutments of arch bridges. Okay, so well, coming to this particular slide, so you have various types of bearings, and as a structural engineer, you should be aware of what these different bearings take care. And coming to very specially, you have elastomeric bearings. So as I said, elastomeric bearings we will be using in base isolations, right? These elastomers are nothing but polymers with rubber-like properties. So you have a synthetic rubber called as chlorophenol and natural rubber with a shore hardness of approximately 50 to 70, which have been extensively used in bridge bearings. Elastomers are, in fact, very stiff in resisting volume change, but also very flexible when subjected to shear or pure uniaxial tension. Okay, this is very important point, guys. Please note, even for a base isolation, suppose if you're going to do project in base isolators and design of elastomeric, you should remember that this particular members, the material elastomer bearings, have the capacity of very stiffness in resisting volume change. Okay, that is why in case of earthquake, it have acts as the resistance to inertial loads, right? Because it have very good stiffness property, but at the same time it is very flexible when subjected to shear or uniaxial tension. So in case inertial forces and accident loads act simultaneously, it have the capacity to transfer both types of loads at a single time. Okay. Most elastomers are stiffened drastically at low temperatures. Natural rubber stiffens less than chlorophene. Elastomers actually creep under continuously applied stress and are subject to deterioration due to high concentration of ozone or severe chemical environment. That is why I told you that for railway girders maintenance, so for every 2 to 3 years, they will maintain, especially for these bearings. So slinging operation will be done. We will keep wedges. We check for any stresses or deterioration in the bearings. We will either remove it or we will repair it and we will release the slinging. Okay, this is how you have to maintain the elastomeric bearing. Elastomeric bearing will actually permit you to translate along any direction and rotation around any axis. So do you understand? Suppose you imagine that you have a column that connects the foundation and the base of a structure. Okay, sorry, footing and the base of the structure. So between the columns, you are placing an elastomeric bearings. Okay, that situation, uh, in case of earthquake or any tsunami or vibrant loads comes and attacks the structure. In that situation, any direction it have the capacity to transfer the loads. The longitudinal movement of the bridge deck due to temperature and other effects are also accommodated up to a certain limit by the shear deformation of the bearing. So see, we are now talking about the expansion joints and considering the thermal stresses, the girders may be allowed to move because of especially in longitudinal direction because of the temperature and other effects. Okay, these are all possible only because of bearings that we are using in the structure. Especially elastomeric bearing helps very well in transferring the shear deformation because of these longitudinal movements. Okay. Uh, the rotation of the girder at the bearing point is also accommodated by a flattening of the bearing in the direction of rotation. As I said, it have very stiffened characteristics, at the same time very flexible characteristics for shear or uniaxial tension. So that is where when rotation of the girder at the bearing point acts on the bearing, it gets flattened in any direction of rotation. Okay. So reinforcement may be required. So you may provide a reinforcement required for elastomers between horizontal layers of the elastomer. See, when I mean reinforcement in elastomeric bearings, you are not going to give any bars, the reinforcement bars within the bearings. Instead, we will be using steel reinforcing plates, okay, to prevent any outward bulging or splitting under. Okay, do you understand? The reinforcement for elastomers are required between the horizontal layers. Horizontally, so if you take the bearings at horizontally, you will be inserting the steel reinforced plates. So why do we require is to prevent any outward bulging. Suppose if the it is made up of rubber, stiffened rubber, when you apply the load and simultaneously shear force is acting, it will start bulging out. The expansion of rubber takes place. So we are using such kind of steel reinforcing plates to prevent any outward bulging or splitting of bearings under service load. The design of elastomeric bearing takes into account the dimensions of the bearings by the term called shape factor. We all have studied the shape factor. Like what is shape factor? The shape factor is nothing but the ratio of effective plan area to the force free surface area, right? For example, the low values of shape factor should be avoided since bulging and low elastic modulus are likely to occur at that scenario. When you design elastomeric bearings, if the shape factor is low, okay, you have to avoid that particular design because it will lead to bulging and a very lower elastic modulus. Okay. Then you'll have closely spaced steel plates inserted into the elastomeric bearings so as to increase the shape factor. Okay. So suppose when you design the elastomeric bearing and in case if the shape factor comes low, the value of shape factor comes low. Okay. You need not to obsolete the design and go ahead with another trial. Instead, you can take an account of reinforcement provided into the elastomeric bearing. Okay, in that rubber bearing, you can actually insert steel plates, maybe closely spaced. Okay, this will help you in increasing the shape factor of the elastomeric bearing. The vertical stiffness is a function of shear modulus and total thickness of any elastomers. Okay. And particularly, another important factor in choosing the right type of bridge bearing is hardness of elastomer material that you are going to apply for the particular bridge structure. Okay, to understand. So when you take what type of, so you may get confused what type of elastomers I can take. So based upon the hardness factors, every material do have hardness scale, right? So you have to take the higher limit. So this is typically specified by we call it as shore hardness and is limited to a maximum value of 70. Higher values of the material results in bearing which are stiffer. Okay. And do you think that elastomer bearings does not have any negativity? Yes, we do have some of the advantages as well as some very few disadvantages. That disadvantages, of course, we have to take consideration when you go for design. The greatest problem that we encounter with elastomeric bearings pertain to the material which does not conform to the specifications. Okay, because they exhibit defects like cracking because due to the see continuous change in environmental conditions, the temperatures. Okay, so it may undergo defects like cracking, splitting, bulging, or tearing of the elastomers because it's obviously a rubber, which is highly hard and stiffer. The first sign of distress in elastomeric bearings is the onset of horizontal cracks near the junction of the rubber pad and steel laminate. Okay, so wherever you will be placing the steel laminate and the rubber pad, okay, at that particular junction, you will be having cracks. So that is the very first point in noting the requirement of bridge maintenance of the bearings. The bearing should also be examined for excessive rotation, which is usually indicated by excessive difference in thickness between the back and front of the bearing. Will again recall some of the points. See, the elastomeric bearings are widely used for any type of structure. The elastomeric bearings are very stiff for any longitudinal load or any accidental loads. Fine. At the same time, very flexible for shearing and uniaxial tensions. Okay. Uh, these elastomer bearings require maintenance for every 2 to 3 years. How do you maintain? By slinging operation. You lift the girder or slab up to 10 mm, and then you will apply wedges at the ends. Then you will either go for replacement, or you go for repairing of the particular elastomeric bearing. And of course, suppose when you go during design period, okay, so in case of design, when the shape factor value comes lower, okay, you need to insert some of the steel plates, which helps in reinforcing the elastomer bearings. Okay, so because it will help you to increase the shape factor of the particular bearings. Fine. And then elastomer bearings also have some of the disadvantages like cracking, splitting, bulging, or tearing. Okay, the first sign when you go for maintenance of elastomeric bearings, you should notice whether there any cracks developed between the junction of the rubber pad and the steel laminate. Okay, then whether you should also know that whether there is any difference between thickness in the back and front of the bearing. Okay, so these are the important things that you have to note down. And the inspection and maintenance also have a few points from my experience. I'm telling you, I'm sharing you some of the important points. Due to possible deficiencies in manufacturing, during the manufacturing, or during the installation time. So when you install the bearings at the pier, you sometimes when the girder is placed on the bearings, maybe accidentally at some more than the calculated force, the lift will be removed, so that the bearings may started experiencing more stress at that point itself. Okay, so the possible deficiencies in manufacture and installation, the bearings may show signs of distress or develop a malfunctioning of the load transfer mechanism. Before any malfunctioning of the bearings lead to distress in the girders or substructures, it should be detected and preventive action taken, right? So it is therefore necessary to undertake periodical inspection of elastomeric bearings. The inspecting official or the bridge maintenance engineer should look for the few important points like the correct positioning of your bearings, whether the bearings is experiencing any excessive shear, excessive bulging, separation of rubber from steel laminate, cracking and tearing of your elastomers, flattening out, offloading what one edge due to excessive rotation, offloading. Okay, and particularly the elastomeric bearing will undergo deformation due to load and movement of the girder. The bearing must be examined for compression, that is called as flattening. Okay, so bulge, excessive bulging, and excessive shear. Okay, the normal functioning of the bearing and judgment regarding the distress, actually the signs, what are the signs it shows. Okay, the distress can be found only on the basis of personal experience. See, as I told you that from my experiences, when bridge engineer goes for inspection, when I was doing internship with one of the companies in Chennai, so I got to know that very particularly people in bridge maintenance, they will be working on maintenance of bearings alone, because bearings plays a major part in transferring the load from the top superstructure to the stop structure. Okay, so as I said, the positioning, excessive shear, bulging, separation of rubber from steel laminates, cracking and tearing of elastomers, flattening out because of the excessive compression loads. Okay, just like that, the signs of normal functioning of the bearing and judgment, any judgment you say that causes distress, can be found only basis of your personal experience and continuous improvements in one oneself. Okay, as a general information, the following movements okay, shall be considered, as I told you from the last few points: the shear deformation, the rotation which leads to offloading, the compression, that is we call it as flattening out. See, flattening out, see, normally when you go for any design and analysis of bearing, we will have term called flattening out. You don't bother about it. Flattening out is not a big term. It's just a type of signs that shows the distress that caused because of the compressive load that acts on the particular bearing beyond the permitted loads. Okay. Then, as I said, the advanced one, you have a PTFE bearing. That is polytetrafluoroethylene. Actually, for these types of loading bearings and all, you take elastomer or PTF bearing, you need to know about the coefficient of friction between the steel plate that you are going to place and the rubber. Okay, so this friction must be low. Only then, because you are placing a bearing to allow any type of expansion of girders or any type of movements or translation or rotation. Okay, so the friction coefficient must be low always. The mating surface, which forms the upper component, okay, is stainless steel in the PTFE bearings. I am telling you. Okay, the PTFE can be filled or unfilled with glass fiber or any type of reinforcing material. Whereas in case of elastomers, you will be using only steel. In case of PTFE, which is advanced, you can use glass or any type of reinforcing material. That is depends upon the material of girder, or depends upon the design that you will be using. Uh, the major disadvantage is the bonding property of this particular bearing is very poor. That is why we always prefer to locate the PTFE by confinement and fitting half of the PTFE thickness in recess of metallic matrix. Okay, so even though you will be using different glass fibers or any natural fibers that can be included in design of PTFE bearings, still at the edges of the PTFE bearings, it will be locked with any metallic material. Okay. So lubricating the mating surface by silicone grease reduces the coefficient of friction. Okay, so why we need to again use silicone grease? Because the material itself have a very good lower coefficient of friction. Okay, again I am applying silicone grease. Why? Because at the edges you are fixing it, because the top of the PTFE bearings will have stainless steel plate. Okay, and at the edges I will be locking it with steel metallic plates. Okay, so that is why I will be applying silicone grease, because that metallic plate at the edges should not cause any greater friction or any disadvantage or disproportionate movements to the girders. Okay, so PTFE known for extreme chemical resistance. So this is very important point why we are using PTFE. It reacts very good in case of extreme chemical resistant, and it have very good dielectric properties under a wide range of working temperature. It works under any temperature conditions you take. So whereas for elastomeric bearings, we have to calculate mean temperature for the past 100 days, and you should know what is the minimum temperature, average mean temperature, and maximum temperature.